Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Cracking the Cryptic. So it's a new day. Last recording I believe I did was February 13th with this bonus holiday pack, and already they've put out a hotfix to correct a bug in either the actual puzzle or the hints in the puzzle, which, yeah, I think that pretty much confirms that they play too fast, and it's not like February 14th or February 13th for Valentine's Day ever changes, so they could have scheduled almost certainly better to have a Valentine's Day puzzle, and if they weren't ready, since they are calling it a holiday pack, they could have just waited until April Fool's Day after that, or any other holiday. Easter certainly would be the next direct holiday you could have made a puzzle around if you were running behind. And as far as I know, Cracking the Cryptic didn't even announce that this was pretty much just a surprise launch. So yeah, they're not taking caution in how they make their game and make sure it's bug free, and then that just gets incredibly exasperated in a puzzle game where you're 100% focused around logic and numbers being correct. If this was a first-person shooter and there was some visual bug somewhere, it would be such a small thing in a sea of so many things it could be easily overlooked. But if an entire puzzle has problems, if even one hint has problems, which we saw in the last episode, in the last puzzle I did, this puzzle 21, a killer arrow Sudoku, just typos in the hints at the very least. We only have 2 more of these. It's probably a mistake that I'm going to do puzzle 22 as an arrow Sudoku. It is also, I think, worth pointing out that while I think the game has been incredibly accurate in measuring the difficulty, this is literally going to be the first arrow only puzzle in the sample pack. Nope, not first one. Twisting Arrows was the first arrow only, and then there isn't another one. So this is the second one. And I would just generally assume that from that pattern of having 2 points of reference and only 2 points of references to that arrow Sudokus can be very easy or they can be very hard, just depending on the layout. But generally speaking, I would suspect that at least 2 or 3 variants makes doing these puzzles easier. But mentally thinking, just focusing on the arrow rule will potentially be a relief until it's no longer a relief. So classic rules of Sudoku still apply. 1 through 9 must appear once and only once in every row and every column and every box. And then the arrow variant says that the numbers along the shafts must sum to the numbers at the base. And then since it's arrow Sudoku, we're not going to get any combination calculator. There is, I guess, some default stuff we could probably mark. We know, for instance, that this can't be 3, because a 1, 2 here would then have to be a 3, 4 here. Could there be a 5? Is there a way to get to 5? Yeah, you could do 1, 4, and 2, 3. So 5 does seem like it's valid. I skipped over 4. Now, can I do 4? You could do 1, 3 to get to 4, but then the other combination would be 2, 2, and they can't be repeated in the same box. It could be repeated if they were crossing the line. So 4 is not a possibility. Can you get to 6 in 2 different ways? Yeah, you could do 1, 5 and 2, 4. Can you get to 7 in different ways? You could go, let's see, 2, 5, and 3, 4. Can you get to 8 in different ways? You go 3, 5, and 2, 6. And can you get to 9 in different ways? You could go 4, 5 to get to 9, or 3, 6. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is the possibility in that spot. If we assume that that is true, then we can put it here also, same number. And all of these puzzles recently have had this thought that potentially there are going to be restrictions where this digit is going to match this digit. But I really have no way of knowing if that's true right now. So it'd be kind of extremely premature to guess on that. We could go ahead and assume that 3s can only be 2 and 1. There's something about this, I guess. Each of these. This is also a 2. So we'll need to come back and address that in a second. But the smallest number here would be a number 1 here and a number 2 here, making this a 3, meaning each of these has to be at least a 3. In fact, every single dot on this puzzle has to be at least 3. Some of these have to be 5, 6, 7, 9. So if they have to be at least 3, then 2 and 1s, we have a 2 and 1 quadruple here. This one is connected to these two, so 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, by having 2 arrows pointing in the 2 direction. And then if we could really confirm that this is 1 and 2, that would lock us into this spot. Otherwise, which I don't think we can do that yet. Again, we're starting with a Sudoku puzzle that is completely blank of any hints. I definitely think even if you gave me like 3 or 4 hints on these hard puzzles, you'd save me in the long run 10, 20 minutes. There is probably some interaction between these all here. Like, you might be able to do the secret math if you know what this digit is, or if you know and this digit and this digit and this digit, because it doesn't matter what these would be, as long as we know they sum to something. Then we could add the sum of these 2 squares plus the sum of these 2 squares plus the sum of these 2 squares plus whatever this number is. Subtract all of that from 45 to get the combination that goes there. And that trick pretty much is exactly the same here. Although I would think it would be rather weird to have the solutions to the arrows before you would have the numbers on the arrow line. I think what we can do So we can select this spot, and this spot. We can put a 9 here, and I think what we're going to have to do is go ahead and just mark every place where a 9 can or has to be. This has to be a 9 because none of these spots can be a 9, which means that these spots can be a 9, and that would mean these spots can be a 9, which means that there's a 9 here. So we'll say one of those two have to be a 9, which then means none of this can be a 9, which means one of these two here have to be a 9. And then this 9 will eliminate that, and well, actually no, I'm already starting to make mistakes here. These two can't be 9s. Either these spots are 9 or these spots are 9. Regardless, we know that this is going to probably not be a 9. Yeah, there's just no way around it. Yeah, we didn't even have to go that far. If one of these two has to be a 9, then that's not 9. If one of these have to be a 9, then that's not a 9. Right. In this case, one of these two do have to be a 9. Okay. And then one of these have to be a 9. And then one of these can be a 9. And I don't think we have anything that would really confirm anything to that. The only other place that possibly could be a 9 would be here. And so we can kind of look at basic Sudoku. We know these two, I guess, here can't be a 9. And since we know none of those can be a 9, then that can't be a 9. Then kind of need something in the center at some point, and we need something at the top, and we need something at the bottom. That being said, I don't think we can prove anything more than that. So then, does that bring us down in possibilities, really, on any level? I don't think it really does. Is there possibly some kind of relationship that a digit here would cause? Like, if this was a 3, then this can't be the same 3. And then this would have to be a 1, 2. This 3 would eliminate the possibility of a 3 being here, but it wouldn't eliminate the possibility of a 3 being here. I think we may very well get to that point where those kinds of things start to matter. Let's see. If we absolutely know that this has to be 5, then a 1, 4 here would eliminate 4, or a 2, 3 here would eliminate 3. So this is probably not 4 or 3. But I'm not 100% sure if that's the case. Well, I guess the question to ask here, is there any other possibility? Or is it simply 1, 4 and 2, 3? And should I potentially highlight these kinds of pairs when there are 2 options, so it stands out a little bit more? Okay. Whatever this pair is, I guess then has to be the opposite of this pair. So we'll use the gray to mark a counter, and then same markings, 1, 4 and 2, 3, and inherently it's the same, isn't it? This is yellow, and then this has got to be the counter. And this is the opposite. So these are strategies we've seen in the past couple of puzzles to get to that point. I might be wrong here though, and I might need to just delete everything because I'm making an assumption that this is 5 and that this digit must also be the same as this digit, which I don't think I've logically proven that at all. Yeah. So we aren't anywhere close to that information. I was running a scenario basically at that point without even realizing that's what I was doing. I jumped the gun and just assumed that's going to be a 5. Alright, well, whatever. At the very least, can mark and colorize numbers. It's not gonna be a bad twist. Because, yeah, these are true. Whatever the combination is for any numbers. I think there literally is only two combinations, two ways to reach it with 2 digits. Okay. But I do think it stops there with that colorization. There aren't any other arrows that are pointing in 2 directions. If this is 9 up here, that doesn't really change much, because we weren't going to put a 9 on the number line anyways. Is there possibly a hidden quadruple that this would turn into, where every single one of these numbers have to be 3, 4, 5, and 6, which would tell me that the 2 odd numbers at that point, 7 and 8, would have to be eliminated. So what is the nature on these in the crossover? If there was a trick to that, I'm not sure I know what it is. It's like I could play around, certainly, and just like put a 1 and a 2 here and say that's 1, 2. Then I could do over this spot a 3 and a 4, and that could be 7. That doesn't really affect anything. And then 5 and a 6 would be too big, so maybe this would have to be a 1 and a 6 for a 7, and then this would be a 3 and a 4 for a 7 over here. And then that would just tell me 7 couldn't be here or in these spots, which then would effectively push into whatever number is here. So 5 and 3 would work, 4 wouldn't. So 3, 2, 1. So there must be a high digit and there must be a low digit. Is what I think I'm figuring out here. Which means really I can just color a pattern, and that's it. We'll use green for evens, even though it might not be evens. Or orange for low digits and green for high digits. Yeah, I think that pretty much is the case. If one of these could be 9, it would be like 1 and 7 to get there, or 2 and 6, or 3 and 5, and then 4 and 4 can't get 8. So yeah, it's always going to be a high digit, low digit situation. So we'll mark that pattern. which it doesn't quite make sense to use those colors, but whatever. And it would be the same situation here. Also, you'd have some high digits, and then you'd have some low digits. Which, that probably doesn't tell me anything. Particularly since I don't know where 5 would come into play. Whether you would consider 5 a low digit or whether you would consider 5 a high digit. I would tend to believe 5 was a high digit. So if 1, 2, 3, well, it would have to be this 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 of high digits or low digits could happen there. It all seems very doable still. It almost feels like the inclination here would be that this would be a low digit and this would be a high digit. Can we get anywhere else with that logic though? And just doesn't feel like we really can. I can color things with somewhat reckless abandon as to actually meaning anything. Almost certainly there is a better way to display those pairs than just labeling all of that. Green and orange side to side just means one has to be a high digit, one has to be a low digit. Could it be a situation where the two high digits are here, or the high digit is here and the high digit is here? I guess it's probably kind of worth it just to mark them anyways. Let's consider actual numbers here. We have all of these as a possibility. It was 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And nothing really would limit that at all. So I could fill in what other things. Well, inevitably, Smart Hint's probably not going to work. I can just with confidence click that 26 minutes into this episode. And so inevitably I'm going to have to go through the hint. So it feels like it might be wiser to just go ahead and fill in every single possibility in all these spots. Now, if you have a low digit and a high digit, it could be 1-5 to be 6, it could also be 1-6 to be 7. There's nothing saying that the digits have to be even or odd. Might be something saying that if this was a 1-2 and this was a 3, then that would eliminate 1, 2, 3 and make this have to be the bigger one, which would then imply I need to label things as taller, higher, or lower, like that. If this is 1, 2 equals 3, it could be the other way. So these two will influence each other, but in fairness, if I get even one of these correct, it will influence all the rest in this row. So let's think about that. Is there possibly a scenario here where you have 1, 2 equaling 3, and then 1 something, I guess 1, 3 equaling 4, then something equaling 5, then something equaling 6, and then something equaling 7. Yeah. That still leaves 8 out. Which if it did leave 8 out, then that would be a weird situation. So the hint here probably would be that 9 is going to free up one more digit, but I'm not sure which. 5 would be a good guess. Oh well. I still feel like it is worth it to just fill in all the boxes before we start looking at the handwritten help. So let's go ahead and do that. And we just want to include these. Then I'm just going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but not 9 to all of that. And then I'm going to select this one, and this one, and this one, and mark 1, 2 as something worth thinking about. And then fill in. Whoops. That's not what I meant to do. And see, I'm not 100% sure that this affects this, but I suspect it probably does. I would heavily suspect that the coloring here should be this and that. That this would affect this enough. Actually, this one would affect the possibility here, which then would affect possibilities here, which would affect possibilities here, which would affect possibilities here, which would affect possibilities here. And that probably would affect possibilities here. So the whole chain feels like it will collapse at some point, and just getting this would limit the possibilities of numbers here, and getting these would potentially help solve this, potentially help solve these, and then you turn the corner if you solve these to start making progress vertically more. And I imagine if you can get the possibilities here and here in this solution, that gives you a lot of opportunities to fill in the rest of these rows. Eventually we solve something over here that helps all of these happen. I would also suspect this is going to be influenced by this. Which maybe if I considered that scenario, that would mean something. If I somehow got a 5 here and eliminated the 5 as a possibility, I'd still need to eliminate like 6, 7, 8 to figure out it was a 9 or something like that, to figure out which specific number. This piece here may have extra influence, but mostly it's just going to be influenced by whatever this is and whatever this is to come down to one solution. They would give us some numbers here that would reduce solutions over here and over here. Let's see. And just fill in all the boxes I keep missing. Now if I click Smart Hint, same thing. Once it fails, it's basically not even going to retry until you put in the number. And are we anywhere close to actually putting in a number into any spot? I wouldn't say we were close. I would say we're incredibly far away, and that I'll be lucky if this first handwritten hint even gives a hint that coincides with something we've already done. The orientation of the arrows in box 1, 3, and 8 rules out 9 from row 7, column 3, row 8, column 7, and row 9, column 7. Okay. We know a 9 can't be here. That's because there has to be a 9 here. Row 7, column 3 would be here. You know, a 9 can't be here because of a 9's here is why I eliminated that. They're saying that, well, I guess maybe that's the same way. And then So those three we ruled out 9s for. Okay. So we did do hint 1 without any help. That's not going to help me any further, so let's go to hint 2. Row 7, column 3 lies in an arrow cell in box 8, belonging to either row 8, column 7, or row 9, column 7. So something. Yeah, they're just pointing out that these 3 spots all interact because of these arrows. So, for some reason, it's saying this can't be an 8. And we have a leap of logic already. Let's see. If I had a 1, 3 here, and this was 4, and then I had a 2, 5 here, and this was 7, then that would leave, let's see, 1, 3 would be plus 2, 5 is 7. That would be 6. And then, okay. What are the possible ways you can get 8? Let's think of it this way. A 1, 8 would eliminate 1s. Alright, well, I'm just gonna have to take its word for it. I just don't think I care enough anymore. I've lost momentum and I've lost motivation on this game so much that I just don't care enough to try and think every single combination, particularly since the game is not willing to give me the combination calculator that I know it has. Almost certainly this is why I am in part so slow at Sudoku, is that I have not just memorized every single combination that would of numbers that would add up to 8. It would be 1, 7, 2, 6, or 4, 4. If I did have a 1, 7 here, there's almost certainly still combinations between these 6 pieces that would make that work, but maybe not. Like a 1 here, a 7 here, then would have to be, this could still be 2, 3, and 5. So this could be 1, 7, 2, 3, 5, and then 4, 6 would be too high, so this would probably have to be 2, 6, 8. 1, 7, 2, 6, 8. Then 3, 4. 3, 4, 7 here. So 1, 7, 2, 6, 8, 3, 4, 7. All of that adds up perfectly and works. So in my effort to just even show one scenario that's fairly complicated, I failed because I'm pretty sure I just thought out a scenario that totally makes that work. and does make this 8. Apparently, though, I'm wrong. This can't be an 8, it says. Fine, we'll stop it being an 8. This also removes 5 from either row 8, column 7, or row 9, column 7. Which I guess we'll try and mark that. Then the last bit of this hint is that row 7, column 3 is 6, 7. And then row 8, column 7, row 9, color 7 are 6, 7, 8. Is it a case that they've skipped some logic here that low digits just can't happen because there's so many of these arrows? Or low digits can't happen because we knew 3 of these had to be low digits? Could my thought process have gotten to that point? Did they ever mention 4? No. 4 is not mentioned at all in these 2 rules. But they do mention 5, so if 5 was a low digit, maybe that would tell you something. Like, my instinct, if I got the hint to this point, would be to assume the same is true for everything else and just mark everything as 6, 7, 8, and I doubt that would fit. I guess you don't have to understand completely. If you know this has to be 6, 7, 8, you can go ahead and take 6, 7, 8 out of possibility here. And since that means we can also take 6, 7, 8 out of possibility here, if this is a 6, 7. So maybe I can get on track here by then seeing that there cannot be a 6, 7, 8 anywhere else in this box. So because of that, you would think that these are 6, 7, 8. Nope, we're not quite there yet. 6 is a possibility. 6 has to be one of these. Then that would mean these have to be 7, 8, 9. That's my guess. Is that these digits are some weird combination of 1 through 6. You kind of have to be. And at some point we had determined this can't be 5. I'm not sure how we got to that either. So let's just remove that marking. 7, 8, 9 as a possibilities, then would make this 6, wouldn't it? Straight up. Okay. Then that gets rid of the 3s. This is now either a 1, 5 or a 2, 4. Then we can select the rest of these and remove the 7s and 8s on that possibility. This 6 here eliminates 6 from being a possibility. Which these really could only be 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. And we don't know the combination of that though. That gets it down to a smaller number. And if this can just be 3, 4, 5, then it also gets rid of more possibilities there. We can go ahead and get rid of 7 and 8s in those boxes. Can we get a smart hint? Nope. So we did hint 1 without help, really. And then really don't understand how we got through hint 2. But I took its instruction and yeah, I guess that got us into a certain spot. We are here and we may be even 1 hint ahead. Is there much else I could change? It's far too early, 50 minutes into this puzzle, to just try and brute force Sudoku solve anything. There's literally only 1 number in the field. So we probably even shouldn't try brute force Sudoku as a concept until we have at least 12 or 13 numbers on the field. Alright, so hint number 3 says, due to the scissor orientation of row 8, column 7, and row 9, column 7, arrows in box 8, the scissoring aspect here, it tells you that whatever numbers are here are not in this box, and whatever numbers are here are not in that box. Which I don't know if you can get anything else from that. 6 I still think has to be in one of these spots. But if 6 has to be in one of these spots, one of these 2 boxes, or one of these 2 boxes, then that'll be 8. That'll get rid of 8. And yeah. There's something there. I'm just not grasping it. Let's see what they say. Due to the scissoring action here, row 7, column 3 can't be in either row 8, column 7, or row 9, column 7. Not fully following that, but it, I suppose, would imply that 6 can't be here and 6 can't be here. If this was a 1 and a 5, then it may very well be the case that a 2 and the 4, 1, 2, 4, 6 just would not work, because then this would be 6 and 5 being eliminated. This was 1, 2, 4, so it would have to be 3 and yeah, I can't get past, I can't think enough steps, and I have just no way of depicting this or writing this down, but I'm guessing, it seems to me like the truth is that the possible combinations here do just eventually mean that this can't be a 6 in a very complicated way, which would then make this a 7-8 pair. And that might actually be even slightly ahead of the hint here. But the hint is explaining things in a different way. Maybe, probably better, you would hope, but maybe not. It says row 7, column 3 can't be either row 8, column 7, or row 9, column 7. This means that row 7, column 3, row 8, column 7, and row 9, 7 are the 6, 7, 8 triple. Okay. Which, okay, we're confirming that this is a triple, but then it's already a double, so I'm still ahead of this hint. Interesting. Well, it would be really interesting is if I'm actually fairly ahead of all the hints and I then run out of hints very quickly. We definitely have seen puzzles that have just had 5 or 6 hints. Okay, then it says in row 7, column 3, and here are the 6, 7, 8 triple. That leads to a 7, 8, 9 triple in row 7 of box 8. We did that. That means row 7, column 3 is 6. We've done that. And in row 8, column 7 are 7, 8 pair. So this is where we are. So I was ahead. Wow, I'm actually doing pretty good here. For as brain drained as I am, and for the fact that I'm still having to use the handwritten hints at all, which I really would have liked to go through this whole series without using any of the hints. Being even a little bit ahead in even any of the steps is progress compared to some of the other puzzles where I'm just completely lost on the hints. So far, there's really only been that one concept that I just can't properly think all the scenarios through. And certainly that would be nice if a game like this could do that, where you could highlight a box like this and then click a button and then just have it show every single possible combination, just brute force. What would this work if this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? That would be, I guess, 9 to the power of 6, or which, if you turn that into 10 to the power 6, that would be, in orders of magnitude, about the exact same number. 10 to the power 6. Still probably way too many combinations for it to show, but not all the possibilities are here. Although that maybe holds the player's hand too much and just overly complicates things if it showed me every single possibility, instead of letting me just write down on a new layer, a transparency layer, possible combinations myself. So what I want to do here is I would like to make more progress and still be ahead of the curve. Ahead of the curve. Do I sometimes say ahead of the curb? Like the side of the road? I hope I don't say that. I probably say the wrong things a lot of times. Yeah, I'd like to figure something else out here. I don't know what there is to figure out here, though. If this was 7 and 8 and this was 6, we know one of these has to be 9, and potentially we know whatever these numbers have to be, this number can't be. I assume that's true. So maybe we could eliminate that as being an option for 9. Probably. We could probably do that. That's a decent possibility. But I think we'd have to go further than that. So we're going to have to go to the next hint. The 7-8 pair in box 9 limits the 8 in box 3 to row 1, column 8, row 1, column 9. Okay. Didn't see that. Why is it the case that none of these can be 8? Because they have to be smaller. And so I didn't catch that. Okay. So let's not read any further. Let's even take away the temptation of reading further for a second. That first sentence gets me to an 8 being here. If an 8 was here, it would eliminate the possibility of an 8 being here, which doesn't seem too bad as a possibility. And it doesn't seem like there's really a case where I'd be too concerned about that, because an 8 here probably eliminates a couple of possibilities here, and that's about it. Or an 8 here possibly eliminates a couple of possibilities here. But if there was just an 8 here and we ignore the arrow part, then the 8 here would stop that from being an 8, making that have to be an 8, which would then not matter at all, because this is a 7-8 pair here, and so none of those should be lit up as 8s. We're going to have an 8 here. If an 8 was here, it would eliminate these. If an 8's here, it would eliminate that. Either one of those seems viable. If this was 8, then we could have like a 1-7 here. That probably wouldn't change anything. And then you could have a 2-6 here. That probably wouldn't change anything. There also could be a 5-3 somewhere. And that wouldn't really change anything either. So what's the next part of the hint? If 8 were in the arrow cell of box 3, it would require 9 to be in row 1, column 9, which is not possible. Okay, so the rest of this hint was just to get to the state we were in. So we have to go forward. The 8 in box 3 puts the 8. The 8 in box 3 puts the 8 in box 1 into either row 2 or 3, which means the minimum sum of these two rows is 2, 3. Okay. Why does an 8 here and 8 here does, I guess, eliminate these possibilities of that being an 8. So why does this being a 2, 3 and this potentially being a 5 change anything? Why are we looking at the minimums here? The minimum sum of these two rows is 2, 3. Somehow it's true for both, which I guess that's because it's 2, 3. If one of these has to be 2, 3 to get, I don't even fully understand why one of them have to be 2, 3. It's kind of a jump. An 8 has to be in one of these spots, one of these 6 spots, and somehow contrastly that means a 2, 3 has to be in the other spot. There's just no explanation on that. The minimum sum of these two rows combined is 23. Now they're saying not 2, 3. And this is just going to be another one of those scenarios where I just don't have enough brain power to consider this or go with the flow on this. Like an 8 here and a 1 here still seems like it could give you a 9 here, and then 8, 1 here would give you 2, and yeah, the minimum sum is not that there are, of the two rows, there's a 2, 3 pair. Misread this hint. It means the minimum sum of these has to be 23. How is it getting that the minimum sum has to be 23? 8, 16, 24. 24 and 24 would be 48. 45 is the maximum number that could be in a box. 45 minus 8 doesn't get to 23 by any means. 45 in half would be then 22 and a half. You rounded that up to 3. That would be 23. So there is a math way you can get to 23 from 45 by just dividing it in half, but I don't know why you would divide it in half, and it's divided in half and also round up to 23. We don't know what the other digits are here. We just know that one of these has to be 9. And we know that an 8 must be in here somewhere. 8 and 1 would be 9. And then 9 here. Oh man, I just don't see how you'd ever figure out to consider scenarios like this or can try and do whatever math. But once again, this game is just way too cryptic on just saying, not explaining itself well. In box 8. The 8 in box 8. Wherever these are. Which we should mark. Puts the 8 in box 1 in rows 2 or 3, which then somehow makes the minimum sum of the 2 rows 23. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Maybe what you do is you just add 1 plus 2 plus 3. So you just assume that this is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. So 9 plus 6 is 15 plus 8 is 23. Okay. By George, I got it. I do now know why the minimum sum of these rows is 23. I would never have considered doing that. And why am I doing that? Yeah. What does that help me? 23 now subtracts it from 45. Could have given me something if I had the combination calculator as far as figuring out what is here. But you know what we could just do is say if the minimum sum here is 23, a 7 and a 9 and a 5 here probably would go over 45. 7 plus 23 would be 30, plus 9 would be 39. Nope. Plus 5. Would be 34 or 44. Yeah. It's 1 short of 45. If it was 7, 5, and 9. Which tells me that the number 1 is not in this box. I think. And that the one, I'm gonna just mark this and risk being wrong, is this. Let's see if that actually plays out. I'm gonna go out on a limb, a very thin limb for that. Where that's still not gonna help me any, because I'm not as confident that it absolutely has to be the case that this is 7. Now, almost certainly what I just did was wrong. So, I'll just mismark it like here, and we'll see if that happens to be right. And then I'll go back and say that ones can be in this section. The hint, though, says that row 3, column 4, okay, here, is at least a 6. Do we follow that logic? that there's no way you could have an 8 in here and then have like a 1 and 5 or 1 and 4. I'm just going to take its word for it and say it must be 6. Then we'll just have the next hint. Using the same logic as in box 8, 7 and 8 are ruled out from column 3, 4. Row 3, column 4. This 7 and 8 are ruled out for the same logic as what we did here, which, if I did figure out that logic, it's now left my mind. Seven and 8 are ruled out from row 3, column 4, as there is a 7, 8, 9 triple in row 7. Box 8. So because this is 7, 8, 9, this can't be. Seven or 8. So I guess what they're saying here is that the fact that this could have been 6, 7, or 8, if you ran all the scenarios for everything, these would interact and this would form a 7, 8, 9 kind of triple between this spot and these spots. And so that means that row 3, column 4 is 6 somehow. I guess 9, 2 is being eliminated as a possibility. Notice they're not even mentioning 9. Yeah, not even mentioning 9, so I don't get how that gets it down to 6. But again, I guess you would have to just consider and be able to wrap your heads around the scenario here of different numbers being and interacting with each other in 2 4 cell columns. So we'll just take the word for the puzzle. Take the puzzle's word for it and say that's a 6. The game tells me it's right. So if that's a 6, then row 4, column 2, and row 4, column 4 then are somehow magically turning into the 8-9 pair. Can we figure out how that would be the case? If this is 6, we can eliminate 8s and 7s, and if there is a 1, which it still feels like 1 are possible, then that would do that. No, this can't be 6. But could this be 6? Or does this have to be 6? does something potentially prevent 6 from being up here? And it definitely doesn't feel like that narrows down the possibilities. This could be 8. If this was 8 and 1, this would be 9. That still seems very doable. This could be 8 and 1, and this could be 9. Seems very doable. Is there really proof here that says these can't be? Three, 4, 5, or 7. I can see the scenario that 1, 2 is just not realistic. You need a low pair and a high pair. So the smallest number here would probably be 1, 5. And since 6 can't be here, it can't be 1, 6, which means it can't be 7. So I think that probably does back up the idea that this has to be 8 or 9, because we need a small number and a big number. And the smallest number you could do would be 1, and then the smallest big number would be maybe 5, but 5 would then be 6, which this can't be 6. So then the next option is 1, 7, because it can't have a 6 here. Okay. So, in the same logic, if a small number was here, it wouldn't be affected by 6 in any way. And then if 8 was here, it could be 9. If 7 was here, it could be 1, 7. I don't really follow the full logic here, though, because there's just too much that you would have to calculate. You'd have to potentially figure out something here. You have a small number and a big number as far as getting to 6. It could be 1, 5. So if this couldn't be 1, 5, then this couldn't be 8, 1. Could be 7, 2, 9. 1, 5, 6. But then I would just assume we can't get to that. So I'm willing to take the game's word. It seems to me like there is very much a case that small numbers, when pressured by so many other arrows, do get eliminated. Okay. So that eliminates the 8 9s there, since we have an 8 9 pair. Okay. So quickly, I think I'm gonna just have to go to hint 18. There is a small possibility now that basic Sudoku might help. We might find something what it has to be. Some hint, something. Nope, not good enough. Just not good enough. We can de-elevate the 8 here because we know it's not in those two positions. So what's the next hint say? Putting an 8 in row 7, column 4. So we're now just moving on to a new spot, which this was a 7, 8, 9 before, would mean that putting an 8 here would mean that the arrows in row 7, column 5 and row 6 would have to sum up to at least 17. 1 plus 2 plus 6 plus 8. As far as, I guess, the possible combinations. At least in this hint, it seems like they're trying to spell things more out. But the maximum value in the arrow circles, in that case, can only be 16. 7 plus 9. So they're saying these two maximum values. Like, where is this math coming from? Yeah, this is obviously a mathematical way to solve Sudoku, or at least this Sudoku, this variant, that requires learning a whole new skill set. It's just not solving Sudoku at this point at all. So if this was 7, 9, if this would be 8, that adds up to 16. But the total here, the sum here, would have to equal the sum here. And if there was an 8 here, the combination here would be like 1, 2, and then 6 and 8. Well, nope, it'd have to be 1, 8 to get to 9, and then 2 and 6 to get to 8. Okay. But that would be 8, 9. Yeah. Which means this has to be 7. Which is where this hint is going. So row 7, column 4 is 7. And possible combinations with sums using math does potentially open up a new realm of possibility here. That 1, 2, 6, 8 is here. Does that mean 3, 4 are not possible at all? Is there a 3, 5 that could happen here? And then that would get you 8. And then a 2, 7 here. That would get you 9. That still seems like that's a possibility too. So the sums are the only thing that would help here. And I imagine it probably means we can't solve this scenario in the same way. We may have been able to at some point solve the scenario in that same way, but yeah, I don't think we can go any further, nor do I think we can make progress over here if we tried to sum something. It would have to be a crisscrossing arrows, I think, to really work. Row 7, column 5 are an 8, 9 pair with a 1, 3, 6 quadruple in the arrows, on the arrows in box 5. Let's see. 1, 3, 6, 7 on the arrows. How did we get that? How did we eliminate 2, 5 as a possibility? Like 2, 5 up here would be too tall anyways. I can see something that would tell me to get this down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then actually I can get rid of the 3s too. This is either 1, 5 or 2, 4 as a pair, which is the exact same 1, 5, 2, 4 pair here. Okay. So how do we get to a 1, 3, 6, and 7? Why do we lose 7 in the first place? Must have just stupidly lost it. But why are we losing 2? Does it inherently come down to the fact that there needs to be a 2 down here? Since these are smaller numbers, 7, 8 is smaller than 8, 9. Thus, 2, why specifically 2 would 2 go away because of that? Why couldn't it be that there's a 1 here and that it synergizes with a 1, 5 pair up here and that somehow eliminates the 1s here? Again, in the interest of saving time, I'm just going to have to trust the game. Just trust the hints. And say that 1 can't be here, 4 can't be here, 5 can't be here. I have no clue. No clue at all as to why that would be the case. But that gives us a 1, 3, 6, 7 quadruple, which, yeah, 1 is going to be 3, 6, and 1 is going to be 1, 7. Well, yeah. So 1, 7 here, and then 1, 7 here. And that gets you the same quadruple. We know then that this has to be 2, 4, 5, 8, or 9. Which that cleans up some things. If we have a quadruple here, then we know actually this isn't a 1 or 5. This is just 2, 4. Then from that logic, we know that's not 2, 4, so we now know it's 5, 8, 9. We have a virtual triple here. 5, 8, 9 would then eliminate the possibility here of 1, 5, making this just a 2, 4. 5, 8, 9 moves the 5, 8 here, and the 2, 4 eliminates that. That makes this a 1, 3 pair, which then you can get rid of the 1, 3s here. But I don't know if that can really do too much more in that section. I guess that we could get rid of the 2s and the 4s in this spot And then guess that means that 1, 6 is a possibility here. And then the other possibility is 3 5s. Okay. We're actually making progress on our own. But I think I am going to hit a brick wall pretty quickly here and just be back to where I was. We could experiment with some possibilities over here. If this is 8, then 1 and 2 is possible with 6, 3 with 5 is possible, 4 with 4 is not possible, but 4 with 5 is possible to get to 9. 5 and 3 is possible, but 1 and 2 up here should not be included. Okay. Which means we can go ahead and eliminate that from potential places where 1 and 2 is, which then means these two have to be the 1-2 pair. Then you have a 3, 4, 5 triple this direction. Don't think that puts us anywhere else with any other solutions. A 1 and a 6 here and a 3 and a 5 here doesn't guarantee the elimination of any numbers on these sides. An 8-9 pair here, or an 8-9 possibility here, is not an 8-9 pair. So I think if we look at basic Sudoku, there's just a lot of possibilities still, and we can't just brute force our way any further. I've hit a speed bump, I've hit a gate, I've hit a point where a logical solution needs to happen. But I see a possibility now, so I guess a good thing I checked. This can't be 8, which then of the possibilities of 8, if this can't be 8, this has to be 8. Let's test that. Yes. Then, with that, we can do like 1s and 7s as a possibility. And then 2s and 5s seem doable, and 3s and 4s seem doable. Well, 3s and 4s, when 3s and 5s seems doable, 2s and 6s seem doable. Yeah. So there's 3 possible combinations on that. We could mark this with an elevated 8 to show that we know we're going to need that. And then 8 9s. I guess the 8 9 eliminated this, which then means these can't be 9, and then These two have to be 9. And if we have to have an 8 in that spot here, and then we have to have a 9 here, then we can just label this as an 8-9 pair. Okay. Which an 8-9 pair then I don't think does anything else for us. There's still just quite a lot of stuff happening here. So at almost 100 minutes now, at least I've given it a decent effort to get this far. I'm trying to at least solve half of these puzzles by actual logic and actual effort, even if it very much is a case now on these super difficult 10-star puzzles that I'm having to hold the hand of the hint giver completely. And my fear every time I click next for the next hint is it is just going to be the last, and then I'll be left with no more assistance and still need assistance. Although most of these puzzles, all of the puzzles so far, really, by the time it says you can solve the puzzle, it's pretty obvious you can solve the puzzle. It's just taking longer and longer to solve the puzzle by just basic Sudoku rules. Okay, it says the 7 in box 3 has to be on an arrow cell belonging to row 1, column 9. Thus, row 1, column 9 is 8 with a 1-7 pair on the arrows attached to it. How did we guarantee that the 7 had to be here in these? I didn't see any logical. I don't see anything that says that that has to be the case, that there couldn't be a 7 here. We did end up with being at this position, but the assumption that it has to be 1-7 still feels weird. And if I looked at the 1s, that wouldn't be any help either. If all of these digits were the same as these digits, that may not actually be possible. Then it would eliminate some numbers here, I would suspect, if that's possible. So it's telling me this can't be 7, but otherwise this hint is useless. And now we've got the longest hint I've seen so far. The 6, 7, 8, 9 quadruple leaves 3, 4, and 5 for circles in row 7, column 2. So at some point there was a 6, 7, 8, 9 quadruple, I assume here, that leaves only 3 and 4 and 5 here. We did get to that point, and here is 3, 4, and 5, which then doubles up to a triple with this 3, 4, and 5, because we've already figured out that's a 1-2 pair. One of those circles has the sum, has has to be the sum of 5 with a 2, 3 on the arrow, because 3, 4 pair on these circles would require a 1 in both of their arrows and break box 5. Okay. See if we can follow that logic. So it can't be 1, 4 here and 5, because a 1 here would block the 1 from being here or here, which somehow is a problem. You couldn't just have a 7 and a 1 here and then a 3 and a 6 here. Even if you have a 1 here and then it would eliminate the 1 here and put a 1 here. I don't see how that's absolutely certain that that's the case. But there would have to be a 1 here. We could look at where the 1s go, and it seems like there's plenty of room for other 1s. Let's see. One of these circles has to be a 5. This one or this one has to be a 5, they're saying. It can't be 3, 4. I'm not sure why. The instructions says that there would be a 3, 4, or a 5. Because a 3, 4 pair here on these circles would require you to get a 1, 2 here to get the 3, and then a 1, 3 here to get to 4, because you can't do 2, 2 to get to 4. Okay, I never would have thought of this, that to even consider that the combination here, whatever this outcome would be, if it has a 1 in like this spot and then this has a 1 in this spot, that would then eliminate the 1, 7 combo from working. So if this is correct, then that should be a 4. Nope. And I'm wrong about that. So we don't know that it isn't the case that it's a 4. It may be a case that one of these is a 5 and one of these is a 4 and this is 3. And I guess we probably figured that out. So the 2, 3 on the 5 arrow, so one of these has to be 5. It's just pure speculation. Again, it'd be great if this application let me make an overlay or make notes or something. But just theoretically, if this is 5 with 2, 3, this is way too long. Again, double spacing, at least new lines between each sentence. The 2, 3 along the 5 arrow along with the 3 in box 5 means that the other circle can't be a 4, 1, 3 pair. So if this was 5 and this was 2, 3, that would eliminate the 3s here, and then a 3 here. The other circle can't be a 4 if this is a 3 here. if this was 2, 3, and then eliminate a 3 here and a 3 here, then it would be 1, 2, or 4. 4 wouldn't work to get to you to a 4. 1 or 2 might work, but 2 and 2 can't get you to 4, so it would have to be 1, 3. And then if there was a 3 here, and there was a 3 here, that breaks everything again. So you have to consider 2 possible scenarios. That means all of that, that's big wall text, means that in row 7, column 2 and 8, it has to be a 3-5 pair. Okay. Which then eliminates this from being 3, 5 and should make that a 5, and yet it's not. Which tells me that is wrong. And it tells me that there's a digit I'm missing. If we have an 8, 9 pair here and this is right, and we have 6 and 7, then, and we have 5, we need 4. This isn't just marking me wrong just because I haven't proven it. Yeah. 1, 2. Yeah. Whatever I did before to get to the point where I thought that that was a 1, 2 pair, that must be wrong. And this must be a 1, 2, 4 triple at this point. And I don't think that really does anything for us other than to say a 1 could be here or 2 could be here, but it could be vice versa. And then that would eliminate the 1s on one row. And eliminate a 1 here. And make the other side 4. And this side here 1 probably. But it also could be that it's like a 2 here or a 3 here. So once we get one of these numbers down, we'll determine it quite a bit. And yeah, here we are. My greatest fear in this game is that we would hit the hint one last time, and then it would be the last hint. I feel like I need way more help than what we've gotten so far. There are only 4 numbers on the field at the moment. Everything else is just process of elimination by some questionable logic that I don't fully understand. That became the foundation for slightly less questionable logic, but still fairly convoluted logic. So the last hint says, like, yeah, there's just no way I'm gonna get around this. Row 7, column 8. This one cannot be 3, as that would put a 1, 2 pair in row 5, column 9. and it would put a 1-2 pair between these two if this was 3. Okay, I was considering that possibility. But then it would also put a 1-2 pair in row 6, column 9. Yeah, 1-2 in row 5 and row 6, column 9, which would break column 9 arrow in box 3. Okay, let's think about that. Are there ways that you could make an 8? Well, wouldn't you be able to make an 8 where this was 3 and this was 5 and this was 1 and this was 2, which would make this 3, which would eliminate nothing new because the 3 and the 5 would have already been here, and then you could do a 1 and a 7 here to enter 8. There probably is supposed to be some synergy I'm supposed to consider around these digits, but yeah, I'm not following. Let's just take a moment to think about this. Yeah, I don't see anything. I don't see anything at all. Nothing's jumping out. Maybe a lot of it here has to do with coloring, so let's take that under consideration and let's select all of the colored in spots, and let's just get rid of the low-high thought. So add green, add orange, get rid of orange, get rid of green. The 2-4 combination on this spot now jumps out to my eyes, and so if this has to be 2 and 4, then to get to 6, this one has to be a 1 and 5 combination. Is that actually true? I don't think it is. I think it's very possible that this is 2-4, since this is a completely different box than this. And then we have a 3-6 here. It's not even in line with this. But again, I think I made a huge mistake in an assumption there, saying that if this is 3-6, that this has to be 1-7, when I'm not sure it even could be 1-7. It's not marked that way. I'm just unwinding my mistakes at this point. And then the idea that like this digit here would push on this digit, which would push on this digit, and would just have us go down the line solving all the digits, definitely did not play out. That definitely didn't happen. Now nothing's standing out. It's just a big wall of numbers that I couldn't care less about. There is probably still some logic to the fact that whatever pair is here would not obviously be the pair here, and that they would have some influence on each other. let's just continue the hint, the final part of the hint. So, row 7, column 8 is 5. I don't know why, but for some reason, this being 3 and this being 1, 2 breaks this. So we'll mark that as 5. Which means this could be 2, 3, or 1, 4 still. It eliminates 5, which would potentially eliminate 3 as a possibility. And then 4 and 4 can't be 8. Which then probably brings this down to being a 2. But I'm not sure because it also could be just 1, 7 here. As far as I could tell, this could be, well, I think I just put it in a 2 and it said it was right, but yeah, as far as I could tell, this could be a 1, 4, and then this could be a 2, 6, and then this could be a 1, 7. Perfectly fine. And apparently now the rest of the puzzle can be solved. Alright, smart hint. Confirm what the written hints say. Nope. Not true. Alright. We're 119 minutes into this puzzle, and all I guess I can do is guess. So where would I have guessed normally? Let's look at the state of the brute force Sudoku and see where that gets us. Well, I guess I don't have to guess quite yet, but I just don't think everything's going to fall in line here. This is going to be 3, so then that's a 1, 2 possibility. So then the 1s and 2s can be eliminated from that possibility. That makes this a 1, 2, 4, which doesn't really change anything. A 1, 2 here. For 1s here, it eliminates a bunch of 1s here. And then would put the 1s here. Same as before, get rid of the 1s here. So this can't be really 1, 4, can it? Doesn't this have to be 2, 3 as a possibility? I think it does. I'm going to be very flippant about putting in numbers here. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. We had to follow all the hints, and I didn't logically follow all the hints. Okay. 2, 4 pair here. Gets rid of that. And a 2, 3 pair gets rid of that. That may mean we have no other locations for a 5 except for here and here, and that may even be wrong. Let's see. 2, 4 pair here. Probably does have some connecting numbers to that. The 1, 2 pair would get rid of all of the 1s and 2s. 3s or 6s here. Have we made any progress on any of this? No. So I think I've run out of steam, at least at this point. There is the beginnings of what look like a solvable by Sudoku puzzle. But there definitely was not a point within those instructions that it felt like that would have been the time you would have taken to clean up possible mistakes and gotten to this point. If the 4s have to be here, and the 4s can't be here. And if the 4s have to be here, then that can't be a 4. This almost seems doable. The problem, of course, 120 minutes into this puzzle is, even if I did solve the rest of this by basic Sudoku, I definitely am not going to feel like I did a good job with the arrow Sudoku variant of this puzzle. I think it's probably very much the case. I'm not even that good at basic Sudoku. Smart int can't be generated at this time. So we accidentally marked this as 2. And that was right. So then, by marking that as a 2, we know that that's a 6. So there, that would have been a guess. So we can do that. And then 2s here and 6s. I don't think really do much for me. Otherwise, there needs to either be a 1-7 here or a 3-5. 4s, no, we're not right. And it does feel like that would just be a guess. And it definitely seems like that's all you can do. So, is this 1? Yes. Then is this 7 here? Obviously, yes. When we look at the 7s now, that's the only 7 possibility. When we look at the 1s now, that's the only 1 possibility. That locks down that 3. Smart hint says that there's 5 can only go in row 4, column 9. What? Row 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Column 9 says 5 can only go here. Let's look at the 5s and see how that is possibly true. What in the world would have had to have happened that a 5 could not be here, a 5 cannot be here, and a 5 cannot be here? Even the smart hint is now really not explaining itself and being cryptic. I see nothing that eliminates 5 from being here. This 3-5 position here definitely feels like it could be a 3-5. This 3-5-6 definitely feels like a 5 could be here. They're not on the arrows. There's no other special information being affecting it. There's not a 5 in this box already. There's not a 5 in this column already. 5 in this column already. And yet the game is just telling me the answer that that's 5. Which, if the other information is correct, then that's got to be 3. And that's got to be 6. Which then that makes that 6. And gets us close to being done with 6s. Let's see, we have a 1 here that has to be a 1. I don't know what we did to eliminate that. Down. Seems like we're going to solve this box absolutely last. Apparently at some point that became just a 2, which makes that just a 4, which makes that just a 1, which means then that has to be a 1. Then could we do anything with the 2s? No. Can we do anything with the 3s? No. Can we do anything with the 4s? Yes, that has to be a 4. The fact that basic Sudoku theoretically could eliminate 8 other positions in one row just by entering a number, or 8 other positions in one column, and 8 other positions in one box. It's a big number there. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 possibilities are eliminated with every number being entered, which I imagine speaks also to the total number of possibilities being very, very high. And I assume quintillion levels, if not much higher. They are just numbers. Interestingly, this is also probably a great example of where random numbers really wouldn't even be that good, though, for security or cryptography. Just because there are millions of possibilities, a computer would be able to try every single output. You would need much larger strings of characters effectively for a key file. 16,000, not 81 characters, and 16,000 characters usually that could be the number 1 through 255 at minimum, if not much higher than that, to get way more combinations. So apparently 8 can only go in row 3, column 3. Why is that the case? I guess because we figured out this was a 1, and I haven't really been looking at the arrows. Yeah, is there somewhere else here where we could figure something else out? 8 can go here because this is 9, but 4 and 5 would make it be too small. Which then that makes that 9. I guess that somehow makes this 8, which 3 and 5 here, or 3 can't be here, 5 here. So doesn't that have to be 3, and that have to be 5? Then I think we probably are now collapsing the puzzle, and that this is either 7 or 9. I'm not sure which. This here is 9. This is 5. This is 3, and that would be our first box done. Can't do anything with the ones yet. Can't do anything with this. And this is 9-7, but I don't have it labeled that way. Labeled correctly. I may once again have hit a speed bump here, or I just have to guess. Yeah. On these arrow spots, if this was 4, this would be 2. So then this has to be 6. And then this has to be 8. So that makes that 8. Then we'll look at 2s again, see if anything changed. And then we'll look at 6s, see if anything changed there. That makes that a 4. I've noticed my computer, when playing this game, does weirdly seem to process and spin up its fans, and I don't really have a good reason for that. It doesn't feel like the CPU usage, actually I can see the CPU usage on my computer if OBS is to be believed, and it's at 0.4%, 0.9%. Wow, it just went over to 1% of CPU usage. So it's probably my computer cooling itself just because of ambient air temperature. Disk space is fine. Frames per second are at solid locked 6 frames per second. The total number of skipped frames during this recording have been 5, which would be 0.0%. 5 out of roughly 5 million frames that have been rendered. And this is not a game that would even really need to render frames that much, because nothing's changing most of the time. There's a very heavy compression ratio I'm sure they're getting here as far as compressing the video down. But that coincidence, which is what I've got to call it, oh, here's a 9, does highlight. This has got to be 3 and 6 here. It does highlight where you don't want just the basic mouse cursor in video games, more than likely, because you don't want an hourglass just appearing unless the game itself is trying to indicate that there should be some loading. And video games in general don't want to just use the default Windows hourglass loading icon. If there is going to be loading, you would want something fancier, and usually that would be in the form of a video game load screen. Okay, we have a 1-5 pair here, which I think probably tells me that one of these has got to be 6 and one of these has got to be 3. Yeah. So we can get rid of that. That's a possibility. 5, 2, 9, and that box is done. I am noticing that in Sudoku seems to be the boxes you don't really think much about end up getting solved earlier, and I guess that makes some logical sense, that if there's nothing interesting in the box, it's either going to be solved at the last second because there's no interesting information to look at, or it's going to be solved as just a afterthought or during the process of solving other more interesting positions. Probably gonna have to lean on a smart hint again. But I may not. Come to think of it, I think I see something. And this may be something I could have thought of and done earlier. There's a lot here that could very easily have been part of the handwritten hints. And they just are kind of giving up on the handwritten hints. A 2 and a 1 here doesn't equal 4. So this is not 2. A 1 and a 4 equals 5, which means this is not 4. A 1 and a 7 would equal 8, which this can't be 8. So it gets down to that point. So it's either 8, 1, 9 or 4, 1, 5. Okay. This side has to have a 1 in it. It has to have a 5 in it. So this is 1, 5. This side has to have a 6 and a 3. This has to have a 2, 4. So we're not going to solve any of this until something else falls into place. This side needs a 7 or a 9 in it. I guess there's only one place where a 4 could be now. So we'll put that as a 4. Then that makes that an 8. And that makes that 9. Then 7. Then 5. And that's that. That makes this 9. That makes this 7. Somehow, in adding 8 here, this had to be turned into 7, which then means that has to be 8. And then to get an 8, it has to be 3, 5 in that very specific spot. And that has to be 6 and 1. And that means that's 3. And that means that's 1. And then we're going to just fill in every single possibility in this box just by deduction. At some point that made that have to be 2 and that have to be 4. So this box is done, this box is done, this box is done, this one, and this one. So we only have 3 left, which that has to be 6. And that has to be 9. And I can't at this position really begrudge there not being any hints, because smart hints would be able to tell us everything from this point, or should be able to at least tell us everything. We only have 5s and 8s left, which is to say we have that one 8 and this one 5. And so that's the solution. I would say at best, though, I solved this puzzle on my own about 40% of the time. At best. More likely 20% of the time. And it doesn't matter really, because if there was one point where you're confused, it's all foundational, the logic and the knowledge. So the second you have to use a hint, the second you fail, you've just lost the mental train and you can't regain it. At least I can't. I haven't been able to with any of the puzzles. I can maybe get back on the train for a while, then I get lost again. And yeah, it definitely is not the experience from the beginning, the middle, and the end I'm understanding what needs to be done and figuring out what the possibilities are. Well, that was 142 minutes, and I keep talking about time, and because it's the metric they're showing me. But that is, fortunately, going to be it. In the next episode, we will do Miser, puzzle number 23, or maybe I'll take a break and do one of these variety packs puzzles. Wouldn't hurt, frankly, to do this one. I think I will do this puzzle next, and then we'll do Miser, and then we'll have 4 remaining of these variety pack puzzles that should be relatively easy compared to the 500,000 subscriber special, which, by the way, the 500,000 subscriber point for Cracking the Cryptic seems to have happened somewhere around 2023. So yeah, this entire puzzle set is relatively new as of to the day I'm recording it, and the time complaint, I think, in part isn't probably as bad as I think, because I saw a part 4 of their live stream, I guess, in which the cracking that was a funny slip of the tongue. The Cracking the Cryptic YouTubers, the main guy and the secondary guy, have a part 4 of their stream that's about an hour and 53 minutes, and it took them, who are very fast at puzzles, that long to solve 3 puzzles. Somewhere around here. Some of these 4 or 5 puzzles here. So an hour and 53 would be 170 minutes. So they still would be closer to 3 times faster than it's taking me to solve the average puzzle, but it is definitely way better than 10 times faster, which is my fear, is that head to head doing the exact same puzzles. And I could see other gamers running into that complaint too, where if you are a YouTuber, and I mean, not if you're a Sudoku just gamer, but you've watched Cracking the Cryptic, and then you happen to watch him solve a puzzle that you just solved, if you go and try and compare it, you're probably going to feel pretty crappy at that point when you see the Cracking the Cryptic YouTubers solving the puzzle twice as fast, 3 times as fast, 4 times as fast. And it almost feels like they've given away these puzzles in a hope that it would motivate people to get frustrated and seek out the solution by searching Cracking the Cryptic's YouTube page, which would be really mean way to try and drive traffic to your YouTube page, and certainly wouldn't work that well. Somebody might get frustrated with one Sudoku puzzle and then go look up the answer, but an average gamer, if they have to look up the answer once and cheat, they're going to just look up a walkthrough that tells you the solution to all of the puzzles, and then that walkthrough will almost certainly not be the Cracking the Cryptic YouTube page. So yeah, that would not be the way to go. I wonder if that's what some people were thinking when they created, when the fad of creating augmented reality games first popped up, is that they could drive people to their websites or YouTube pages as part of that. It would not be a very financial sound decision anyways. The ad revenue you'd get from YouTube would be nowhere near the hassle, or not anything worth even considering compared to the case of just selling more Sudoku games on Steam. Anyways, I feel like I'm rambling here. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.